What is up, everyone? Welcome back to episode 2. We're on a roll, second episode in of Kontrol Cast, and today I want to cover, for me, to get out on here, my goals, where I'm at the moment, what my plans are moving forward with the current phase that I'm in, and my thought processes behind it, because it allows me to, again, what this podcast is for, get everything off my chest in terms of what I'm thinking, my thought process behind everything. And I definitely think you can definitely take some stuff from that. People who might be in the same boat as me, in the same phase as me, trying to maybe do the things that I do on a weekly, on a daily basis, and have similar goals for me moving forward as well. That's what this podcast is all about. Wherever you are in this, watching this, listening to this, hope you're having a great day. Sit back, relax, drop the podcast a rating. If you're listening to it, it should be on some of the platforms, if not all of them. On YouTube, if you're watching this as well. Having a look at my lovely face here. I'm absolutely sweating. I'm just after opening the window. It's been a busy day of check-ins. Control coaching is absolutely flying at the moment, and I appreciate and I'm super grateful for everyone who is jumping on board, even inquiring about coaching, putting their trust in me to guide them in the direction that they want to be going and lead them to the goals that they have now as well. And we're definitely in that phase, you know, obviously with it being September, which is like the 2nd January of the year, where people are taking action, you know, and people are saying, you know, enough is enough now. I need to get stuck into things. I'm going to grab a little drink and we're going to actually get stuck into this podcast here as well. I'm going to make it a mission. I was listening to a podcast this week, and I think 99% of podcasts don't make it past 20 episodes. We're on episode 2 here now, so we're going to go for as long as we can go. A lot of these episodes will be me, myself, and my thoughts. And if you're on for that and you enjoy that, just listening to me chatting, you might get some good information, some good value, some entertainment maybe out of it. Stick along. But there is also going to be some episodes with some good guests. I put out a box on Instagram during the week asking who I should get on, and I've had some good names put down there, you know, names that I wouldn't even think about, that are probably within my reach to ask as time goes along. If you don't ask, you don't get, you know, so we just have to ask these people now as well and get plans in place to get them on and have a chat and pick their brains on different things. And that's what I'm really, really excited to do. I'm really, really excited to have some good conversations about different topics, you know, that kind of way. So again, drop me a message, drop a comment below if there is anyone in particular that you'd like me to have on. And that could be literally about absolutely anything. I know I'm big on bodybuilding. If you're watching on YouTube or you do follow me on YouTube, you know, a lot of it is my processes that I go through. A lot of this podcast will be the exact same, but a lot of it will be to do with mindset. A lot of it will be to do with business. A lot of it will just to do with what my day-to-day, I suppose, life looks like, which has a lot of moving parts, I suppose you could say. It's not all just bodybuilding. It's not all just like fitness, lad. Do you know, that kind of way? But where I'm at the moment, obviously, it was a big manic mental year. I'll tell you that much. And that's why I want to sit down and chat about it today, just to be like where we're at. You know, this year has just been a bit of a blur. Like, I know, and give me a date, tell me what happened on that date, I'll be able to tell you what happened, because so much has happened. But we've done a lot. It's been absolutely mental, and I'm actually just really excited for the next couple of months of just being like in behind closed doors, just working away on myself, you know, that kind of way, and not having to get on an airplane, not having to go anywhere, just like working away here now, just me, my little family, and just building, you know, and being in sicko mode, as I'm calling it these days, and just making progress, you know, with my physique, with my business, just life as a whole. Danielle also has me bloody saving for a mortgage now, which is just joys of it, like, isn't it? Like, when you're doing that, you're just thinking to yourself, Jesus, what has it come to? Do you know, that kind of way? And it is what it is. Like, it's time to mature. It's time to cop on and grow up that small little bit. So that's what we're doing. But as I said, this year was massive. This year was my first prep for the stage, obviously, for bodybuilding. And we're at that point now where, like, you know, prep was my identity for so many months. The first big block of the year, majority of the year, you know, we're at that stage now where there's no need to be chatting about the prep. You know, there's no need to be saying I'm X week's post show, because prep has come, prep has been. As Danielle said, you know, when we have our little moment, she's like, you had your few weeks, all right? Not everything's about you, all right? Get over yourself, this, that, and the other. I did have my few weeks. I had my few months, you know, and I was selfish. I speak to people on the phone when we're doing consult calls, and they're like, you know, I nearly broke up with my missus during during prep and it nearly ruined us. You know, me and Danielle had a very successful prep. That's because Dan's been with me, you know, we're together over 7 years, I think. And with that, she's been with me through all the preps I've done. So this was just a longer prep, you know, and we managed things extremely well, just apart from the point of like doing normal relationship things, you know, that kind of way, which is all good. She was okay with that. So, you know, she knew I was doing it. She knew what she was getting into. She knew what was ahead, you know, and that's a big thing, is just making people aware of what's ahead if you are going to do that. But we had the prep, obviously on prep, you know, January straight through, did that. And then now we're in the point where we are like 10 weeks post-show, which is a long time, you know. So as I said, I'm past that point now. Like we're nearly 3 months post-show, lad, which is absolutely mental. And I think we're in a relatively good spot post-show, you know. My mindset, and I speak to clients on it a lot, you know, when we're moving from diets into gaining phases, or, you know, just going from a phase, you know, and bridging between, it's like flipping the switch. You know, my mindset has been fantastic throughout this entire post-prep phase. And the only reason I kind of know that is because like I compare it to when I'm chatting to other people who are like, you know, in limbo and having really, you know, rough patches of time post-prep, which is just very common these days. And it's something I want to be able to help a lot of people with. And if that podcast helps you with this, and my YouTube videos help you with that, let me know. Do you know what I mean? If there's any topics you want me to dive that little bit deeper into. But the mental side of things is the biggest thing. And that's the most amount of progress I've made this year in itself as well. Yeah, physique aside, we're making hella progress here now at the moment, which I'm going to get stuck into. But mental side of things, you know, like my mental maturity in terms of like where I'm at and where I'm going, and my resilience and willpower and discipline, and the list goes on, is just in an unreal spot. And that's only going to get better. That's only going to get better. I'm actually reading now as well. I've been told so many times this year that reading would be really good for you, and it's just something that I kept putting off. But I bought a book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. Second book I bought this year, first physical book, and I'm actually reading a bit of it. Usually in the morning time, first thing when I wake up with my coffee, I'm reading a good few pages of that book. But set that aside, where I'm at the moment, about 10 weeks post-show, right? Very, very good phase. I'm very heavy compared to where I was at the end of prep. My lightest was 64.9 kilo, and I'm hovering over 86 kilo at the moment. I was 87.5 kilo this morning, just with a couple of things there this week that brought me up to that body weight, but I expect that to kind of drop back down now over the next couple of days. So that's like 23 kilo of a gain in that amount of time, which is mental. You know, you see fellas online who are like 10 weeks, 12 weeks post-show, I'm only 2 kg up, lad, look at me. And I'm here and I'm like 23 kilo up, and I'm like, look at me, lad. But that's just the joys of it, you know. I think we've held that body weight that we've gained relatively well, you know. Like, you wouldn't look at me and probably say you've gained 20 kilo. Maybe you would. I was just so sucked down, and I also lost a good chunk of muscle in that latter end of prep. But that brought through condition then as well. It's just, we dug hard. Just, the body just started fucking dropping weight. Like, if you following along my prep, like, you would have noticed, like, there was a 4-week period where we dropped like 12 kilo towards the back end of prep, which was absolutely mental. But I was happy with what we did. I was really happy with the condition we brought for the stage. You know, couldn't have brought any better condition, I don't think, for the level of muscle that I have. You can only get as conditioned as how much muscle you have, you know, that kind of way. And now we're in that phase of 10 weeks post-show. Off season is on, you know. We're a couple of weeks into the off season now, and the mindset had to switch, you know. And I had a phone call with a lad today who was trying to get that mindset switched, who actually competed the exact same day as me, just at a different show this year. Had some issues post-prep, some illnesses and stuff like that, and now it's just trying to get into that frame of mind of growing and that mindset. And it can be hard to do, you know, when you spend so much time, as I said to him, looking in the mirror, you know, getting that instant gratification of, you know, seeing a new line, seeing a new vein, seeing detail coming through, you know, at some points of prep, you know, on a daily basis. It can be very addicting, can be very, you know, enjoyable. And when you flip the switch and you're going into grow mode, you know, that's not going to happen anymore, you know, unless you're some freak who's just like putting on a new fucking bit of muscle here on the delt or the chest and stuff every single day of the week. But it's a slow process, it's a boring process, and that's what I'm getting stuck into here now, properly for the very first time, which is exciting as well. So I'm going to be able to share my experiences, you know, the hurdles and the boring, you know, shit that goes on a weekly basis with you, and on YouTube visually show you the progress every single week, which I'm very excited to do, because I'm documenting my progress like week to week. you know, and being accountable, showing up every single week, showing you the visuals, showing you what I'm doing with my food, showing you what I'm doing with my training. Obviously, I am not natural as well, so I'll be chatting, you know, through responsibly. Obviously, there's a lot of younger people around my age and even younger that would be watching and listening to this responsibly of, you know, what I'm doing in terms of that side of things as well. Because, you know, it is an interesting topic. It's what I like to listen to. It's what I like to watch. So I'll do the exact same myself. There's no need to be hiding things and doing this, saying one thing and doing another. You know, I'll be transparent across the board and try and help you as much as I possibly can. So that's where we're at the moment. Food is at the highest point that it's ever been at. If you go and watch my full day of eatings, I'm on about 3,700 calories, 500 grams of carbs going in every single day. It's the highest baseline food I've ever been on, which is good for me, you know, like, because I've always been in a position where I could never push food that high. But I basically, you know, finished up prep and got food up to a high point straight away. I was like, I'm not going to binge here. I'm going to get food in a good spot, right? Yeah, I might need as much food, but if that has training in a really good spot, if that has me and my relationship with food in a really good spot, yeah, body weight might go up that little bit quicker, but I didn't binge a single time after these shows. After that prep, I didn't binge once. I didn't fucking lose control once with food. And when I say lose control, it's like when you cannot like stop eating food and shit like that, you know, and people might be listening and watching this thinking, what are you talking about? You know, like losing control, like fucking, how can you lose control eating food? But if you know, you know when you lose control of eating food. And I spent years of my life doing that, you know, with the relationship I've had with food. So relationship with food, again, is in an unbelievable spot. And I do put that down to me putting food up quite high straight away. And we're at that point now where I've kind of have that food there and I'm just going to hold that now dependent. You know, there's only so much food you actually need to grow, do you know, that kind of way. And I'm at that point now where I can probably get a good few weeks out of the level of food that I'm on and just continue to make use of me being on cycle, which is a huge adjustment in itself, and just me getting the most out of my training. You know, like training is the best it's ever been. I'm going into the gym and I'm moving weight and I'm like every single week, you know, like I'm in those like newbie gain phase after prep. You know, like, yeah, I've deadlifted heavier weight before. I'm doing stiff deadlifts, but like the jumps that I'm having in weight, tomorrow will be the next stiff leg session and I'm like, I'm going to move some weight here, lad. And it's like setting goals for stuff like that now in training, which is a big thing. And it's something, you know, when I was going through the prep, you know, and people were chatting about post-prep, they're like, you need to set goals here now for different things. And a lot of people talk about setting like training goals and strength goals. And that's something I'm starting to do here now, is like, I'm going to pull X amount of weight off the floor by the end of the year. I'm going to do this by the end of the year. And that's what I'm focused on right now, is just the end of the year. What I can do from here now in September till the end of the year. Yeah, I've got big plans in place and big goals in place for what I want to do in a year's time and in 2 years' time. And, you know, I haven't thought too much into it, but when I might want to get back on stage, you know, who knows where I'm going to be in a year's time, in 2-3 years' time. But I'm just focused on that now. And the biggest thing that's allowed me to kind of just go from being in that post-show phase, you know, going from prep to post-show, which can, you know, be that tricky situation, into the off-season here now, which is like 10 weeks later, 9 weeks later when I started, or 8 weeks later when I started, I should say. The success of that has just been from looking at it all from a different perspective, in terms of not like looking at it as this phase or this phase of this phase. It's just a fucking phase year round. It's just life. Do you know that kind of way? The reason I say that is because prep, okay, you call it prep because you're prepping for the stage, okay? But I'm prepping for the stage here now still. I'm prepping for, you know, whatever I need to prep for. That might be something else. It mightn't just be staged, you know, like, if you know, label things as like the prep and then you label this as like the bulk or the off season or whatever the case may be, you know, you're going to like have different like thoughts behind different phases and everything. Like you're going to look at the off season, like I could be looking at the off season now as just, okay, that's a thing I've never gotten right before. I'm probably going to fuck it up here now. I'm going to have that bad mindset behind it. Whereas the way I've looked at it is just this full continuation through, same routine, same discipline, same structure from prep, reverse. Yeah, I had like the holidays in between. I was going here, going there, going everywhere, doing all this and that. More flexibility, more freedom, of course. But just like the routine, the structure, like eating the same types of foods and like training and all that kind of crack, just carrying that momentum, you know, because you know that buzz you run off during prep. You need to run with that buzz through the reverse into off season. to not let yourself fall into that little slump, because it's very, very easy to fall into that slump. And I've spent so many years in that slump that I will never spend time in that slump ever again. And it's something that I feel for people when I'm looking at them that go through that slump, you know, even seasoned competitors. You know, I'm one to talk, like I've only done one season, but it was a very successful post-show phase, and I want to be able to help people, even if that's just watching my videos, even if that's just listening to this, to do the same, have that success straight through, you know, and have that continuation, and look at it as just a continuation year round. My food is just a lot higher. I'm getting fucking strong as a motherfucker inside the gym. That's what I'm doing now. So I'm growing, I'm building muscle. That's the aim. Prep, okay, I'm, you know, on less food. I'm doing more cardio, you know, I'm focused on fat loss, you know, but I'm still trying to get stronger in the gym. Like, it's all the one, but it's just food is usually, like, you know, higher or lower depending on what the goal is. Cardio is usually higher or lower depending on what the goal is. Do you know that kind of way? You have this date in front of you right here, or you just have like this date in front of you right here. Like, in terms of dates with me, I'm so hard on them. Anyone who signs up to Kontrol is just like, we need to get a date in place here. Do you know what I mean? Whenever that might be, I want to get a short-term date in place. If you've got a long-term date here, I want to get a short-term date in place right here. For me, I've got myself set up. Obviously, I'm self-coaching right now at the moment. I just have opinions from others that I value. And I've got myself set up in the app. I'm checking in with myself every single Monday morning. I'm staying accountable. You know, I'm comparing photos. I'm seeing, right, this is the feedback I'm giving myself this week on digestion, on appetite, on sleep, on etc., etc., etc. Doing exactly as I would do, but I'm staying accountable, you know, and I'm really, really enjoying that process as well. But a date for me right now is that date in 20 weeks' time. I just put that 20-week push on from the start of the off-season till the end of the push. That could change, but it's just having that there, that little bit of urgency. I'm looking at the screen right now and it's counting down the hours, just like it does for any client, you know, that might be going on a holiday. Any client that has a date there set, every time I go in there, it's showing me how much time is left, and it just creates that little bit of urgency. And my goal right now is getting back on stage, seeing how much progress I can make of this off season, my first ever proper off season, which is why it's so exciting. I've never done it properly before in a way that I know how much progress I've made from one prep to an off season, and one off season starting to the next prep. Like, this is going to be our first one. This is what makes it so exciting. So for me right now, it's just walking the walk in terms of being able to show up every single week, like not miss a beat, and show that I'm doing that. That's what's keeping me accountable. Like, that's a massive thing. You know, obviously I'm showing up to myself as a coach, as my own coach, and I'm showing up and, you know, showing other lads, all right, this is how we're looking, lad, what do you think of this? Okay, having consult calls, talking about different things to do with, you know, more in-depth stuff that I'm doing with myself in terms of like drugs and stuff, so I can learn as much as possible. I'm on a lot of forums, you know, like the Train by JP forum, Physique Collective, all these different things, you know, and just learning as much as I possibly can, so I can put that into place with myself and see what return we get from it, you know, and use myself as a guinea pig on certain things. So I'm going to be able to see what I can do in terms of with clients, you know, and build that experience as time goes along, both mentally and physically in terms of everything that I'm doing. Do you know that kind of way? And with that, as I said, having a 20-week push, seeing how much muscle we can build. As I said, getting back on stage. I will 100% do another season. Like, who knows yet when I'll do it, because my love for bodybuilding has just continued to get better and bigger. The minute I jumped off those stages this year, like, fuck me. Like, the motivation that I had from it, the enjoyment that I got from it, like, I was on such a high, you don't even realize that it just drove me straight on here now to where we're at today. So potentially looking at being back on stage, you know, maybe 2 years time, 2 years, 3 years, we'll see where we're at. It depends how much progress we can make. My biggest goal here at the moment is just nailing this first push. Nailing this first push in terms of getting to the end of it, being relatively happy with body composition. You know, I've never been in a position where I've, you know, pushed things in terms of body weight, you know, in a gaining phase that I've actually liked the way that I've looked, you know, and that just comes down to being in control, you know, and being adherent, being disciplined in terms of keeping up, you know, cardio to keep me fit, you know, to keep me training well. And big thing is going to be keeping the love for that training there, you know, like, flashback a year and a half, I thought I'd never have the love for training back again. I thought training was done for with me in terms of bodybuilding. And here we are now, you know, with the love that I've never had before for it, you know, to get into the gym every single day and just attack it. And I want to be able to keep that up, and that's going to be important because, you know, this is a phase where it can get boring, it can get very mundane, and it can get to, you know, just a point where you're just like, ugh, do you know, that kind of way. And if you let yourself go down that little slope, it can be hard to get out of it again, do you know, and just your enjoyment for things, especially in a phase that you need to spend so much time in, the phase you need to spend the majority of your time ever in, growing, it should be enjoyable. And it should be a phase that you enjoy doing absolutely everything that you do in it. Do you know that kind of way? So with that, it's just about building as much size as I possibly can here. Do you know that kind of way? And being smart with it, obviously being healthy with it. I want to have a family in a couple of years' time. You know, I need to be smart with things, but also at the same time thinking, you know, I can push the boundary on things that little bit here as well in terms of what I can do, how much I can grow. Do you know, training is at that point now, right, where I'm feeling battered. Last week, to be fair, just gone by is like a tough week in terms of the workload and everything that I was doing, and I was absolutely battered for a finish. This week mightn't be as full on, who knows, maybe it will, but at that stage of training where I'm absolutely battered, thinking to myself, how am I going to go in and do this session here now on certain days? But then I'm also just as recovered as I need to be to go in and do that same session again, which is really, really enjoyable. So that's where we're at in terms of training. In terms of food, as I said, appetite is still very high, insulin sensitivity is still in a great spot for me. Blood pressure is in a very good spot. My health is, you know, in a good spot. I was very happy with bloods when I got them back. We'll assess bloods again in probably like 20 weeks time. You know, in 20 weeks when we're coming towards maybe the end of the first push, or less than that now because we're a couple of weeks into the push, and we'll see where we're at. But very happy with the last couple of weeks in terms of where they've gone. As I said, getting back on stage in a couple of years' time to be able to see how much progress we've built. I'm not in any rush to hire someone to coach me right now at the moment because I am as accountable as ever with myself, which is strange. I wasn't sure, do you know, how long that might last. You know, obviously I was running off the momentum for a little period of time, but as that starts to get a little bit less momentum-y now, we'll see how things go. I'm going to be sticking with myself for a while. You know, there's no one that's, you know, jumping out at me thinking, you know, I need to jump on board with him, I need to jump on board with them, you know, because they're standing out. But I do have my people there that I'd be like, right, if needs be, let's do it. Do you know that kind of way? But for right now, I'm managing things, I'm being meticulous with things in terms of training, food, my expenditure, drugs, just health as a whole and just the setup as a whole. And we're going to keep running with that. And I think it'll be cool to kind of share that with you and just update with you on that as well. So that's where I'm at. As I said, goals are to just continue growing here now. Build a business as big as I possibly can. Okay, and take it to heights, you know, that I've always, you know, believed that I could do, and just look after everyone that comes on board and puts trust in me, and give them the best service that I possibly can on that front of things. And that's the beauty of, you know, having the brain back in a really good spot, you know, and being able to do that and put time into that, but then also having everything set up and just being on it enough where I can just give as much as I need to give to my own training, to my own progress, you know. And that comes down to routine. It comes down to my structure. It comes down to what time I get up out of bed in the day to get done what I need to get done for myself, but also get the work done that needs to get done, and just do the way I want to do it. Do you know that kind of way? So I'm always ahead of myself in terms of my own physique, my own progress, which is a knock-on effect then into what I can give to other people. Because what I notice is, like, if I'm on top of it and I've boxed off my cardio and my steps there first thing in the morning, like, I'm going into work like in a good mood. Do you know what I mean? And I've that box ticked. And then I'm getting my meals in, you know, I'm feeling good. I'm going in for a training session, you know, I'm getting this done. I'm getting to the end of the day, I have all these boxes ticked, you know, work is in a good spot. Like, it's all that momentum, do you know, that kind of way, and it's just running with that. But I suppose the biggest thing, I suppose, today and looking at it is just thinking, you know, if you're in that position right now, you know, where you've set a goal, you know, like myself, and, you know, you might have put a name on that phase or whatever the case may be, and I made a video on it in terms of how you're going to get the best out of that phase. In terms of me being in a gaining phase, off-season, bulk, whatever you want to call it now, is just like having that rigidness with it, you know, having that discipline in place. That might mean you haven't had that coach, you know, and that accountability, you know, majority of people will. We all need some form of coaching, in my opinion, and a big thing is we all need some form of like goal for us to be working towards and a date that we need to be working towards. But I also think just, you know, looking at that phase and just thinking to yourself, right, you know, I'm in control here now, and like getting in control is not an easy thing to do, like full control of both mind and body. And it's what I'm trying to do to myself. You know, I think I'm getting there, you know, like I'm working towards that every single day in terms of where I'm at. And that's the motto behind the business. That's the slogan of the business, is like full control over mind and body. And if you're in control of the mind, you're going to be well in control of the body, I'll tell you that much. And that is a big thing, you know. And as I said, just that phase that you are maybe bridging between, if you're post-show now or you're coming up to the end of your shows, like a lot of people will be that I chat to, is just like, look at it as a continuation, man. Just look at it as the way your life is. Like, you're just getting older. Time is just going by. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's the same as your phase, you know. You're just either eating more food, eating less food, you know, training is being progressive as this here now, or like you're just trying to maintain the level of muscle that you have and just enjoying it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'll always say it, anyone who's signing up for coaching, anyone who's coming on board, the things that need to be like present on plan, like the whole time, are enjoyment, okay? Adherence, like for you to be able to adhere to a plan, enjoy that plan firstly, adhere to that plan, a sustainable plan, all right? They're like the three things that need to be there the whole time for you to actually just keep it up, to be able to stay on it. You know, that kind of way, like if you're starting out a plan here now in September, or you're moving into a new phase here in September, make sure they're present. Make sure they're present. Give it the time that it needs. Patience is going to be that big thing. And it's a big thing that I'm trying to learn here for myself here now as well, in terms of making progressions in the gym, in terms of like moving food up, you know, and not trying to push things too quick, because I've got so much time in front of me here, you know. And a lot of us will be going into that phase here now, the gaining phase. It's just like understanding, right, I've got a long time ahead of me. This phase is going to be long. It's probably going to be quite boring, and I just need to knuckle down and actually understand what the goal is here at the end of the day. So that's where we're at. That's where I'm at, you know. Like, a big topic that I'll probably speak about in different videos and different episodes is, you know, where I've come from, you know, and the challenges that I've faced over the years in terms of like my eating disorder and, you know, just shit like that. You know, like a lot of people look and think, what are you talking about, eating disorder, lad? Believe me, as I said, I've been in this game for quite a long time. I look like someone who hasn't, and that's through the challenges that I've faced. You know, it's through the things I've done to myself over the years, and I'm excited to break them down, because there's definitely a lot of people who will listen, who will watch this, hopefully, that have probably been through or are going through similar struggles, similar problems. And it's the relatability that I get from watching, listening to people, that makes things easier and allows you to take something away from that as well. And hopefully I can do that with you. So that's where I'm currently at the moment. Do follow along. All right. Let me know below. Let me know anywhere. Send me a message who you'd like to see on the podcast, what you would like me to speak about on the podcast, if there's anything I can help with, any topics. We're going to be diving deeper into like solely focused topics, but a lot of the podcast is just going to be about thoughts I'm going through, things I'm thinking about, different things that are going on here at the moment and everything. You know, let's get stuck into it, lad. Let's get stuck into it. Drop the video a like. Subscribe if you haven't already and you are watching this on YouTube. All right. Follow along for the journey. Follow along for my first proper off season. Follow the podcast if you are interested in listening to me chatting to myself, to ye, to other people about different topics. I'm really looking forward to it. All right. I'll see you in the next one.